So our university is the University of Tsukuba, and within our university, we have the international degree programs, which are basically English programs aimed at students coming overseas. You can visit our global.tsukuba.ac.jp, but I will be introducing in detail what these programs are. So the picture you can see now is the center area of our university near the central library and a Starbucks. What our university is considered in Japan is a very prestigious university. It's a top 10 Japanese university, 1% in the whole world. Degree programs for international students are available. We can say that our university, in terms of numbers and also the way it's oriented, is an international focused research university. So we will be happy to have you here. In most rankings, we're in the top 10, even better ranked than other universities that are more famous, maybe in terms of branding in the region. Today, I will be introducing, as I mentioned, the English programs. We have the life and environmental sciences. So, for example, if you're interested in plant biology or agricultural biological resources, geosciences, this could be a good place for you. If you're in the humanities science, international social science may cater to those needs. We have social sciences and international issues. The program I work for also is available, the Global Issues program. If you have an engineering side, we have also the interdisciplinary engineering program. And finally, if you want to become an expert in Japan, we have the Japan Expert programs. Okay, those are the programs I will be introducing to you today. Now, in terms of the geolocation of our university, we're close by to Tokyo. It's just a 50 minutes trip by train from our university. We're also closely located to the Narita International Airport. A good thing about having this very privileged location is that the living expenses, for example, are not that high compared to Tokyo. So it's quite affordable city to live in, and also it's quite nice. I like it. It's a lot of greenery. Now, what you are seeing there is a typical view of the lab activities that some of the programs have. All the programs have a very hands-on approach. All of them are a 4-year bachelor's degree. It's a mix of practical work with also tutorial systems. And during the final year, something all of them have in common is that you have a very close approach to research. Um, this is a picture actually of a field trip that the students did to Thailand. And let me begin with the life and environmental sciences. So if you're interested in genetic, biochemistry, ecology, physiology, and so on, maybe biological science is your thing. Agrobiological resources sciences, also if you're interested in applied sciences. So is agrobiology plus fisheries and environmental sciences, covering things like economics and sociology as well. Now, if you're a geo guy, a geoscience, human geography, geology, natural hazards, and things like regional geography, those are also covered in this program. So it's quite big, it's quite comprehensive. So if you're interested in that, please take a look. Also, international social sciences, as I mentioned before, if humanities or social science is your thing, if you're interested in economics or criminology, law, also political science or sociology, this is a very good program to cater to those needs. Um, Follow up by the program I actually work for is the Global Issues program. We basically work in two areas, environmental science and human sciences. On the environmental sciences, you have things like earth environment, recent security, but on the human side, you need to mix it with things like social cohesion and inclusiveness, and also well-being. Okay. I will, of course, talk a little more about in detail by the end of my presentation. But if you have heard about SDGs on the TV, on the news, or in conversations, this is basically what global issues are about. It's problems without borders, things like hunger, poverty, and more relevant than ever, climate change and, for example, pandemics are very important topics in our area of studies. Another thing that we cover in the English programs is engineering. So if you're interested in doing interdisciplinary, both micro and macro, if you're interested in things like optics, electronics, robotics, simulations, and molecular and material science, this is a good place for you to work on. These are, for example, some of the topics that they have covered before in terms of research, like silicon carbide or satellites, robotics, interactive art, and so on. So anything that is quite related to hard science, in engineering is going to be covered in this program. A little different in nature is the Japan Expert program. As I mentioned before, if you want to become an expert about Japan, they have these four areas to work on. One would be agricultural science, healthcare, as well as Japanese language and art and design. So if you want to become an expert in these areas, you're going to be required to have very intensive Japanese language training. And because most of the content is actually given to you in Japanese. So if you want to come back home or stay in Japan as a Japanese expert, this is a very good option. Now, talking about language, all programs offer the possibility for you to become proficient in Japanese by learning Japanese. You have mandatory courses, and the university has provided an e-learning system as well for you to become very proficient. This is just an example of one of the mobile applications we have. But really, we support your learning of languages as well. Now, talking about what are the graduate destinations in general, I think a big chunk of our graduates goes to master's program. That means graduate, postgraduate level courses. Some of people decide to just to go straight from the bachelor's into working. That's also a possibility because we have a very good environment actually for very emerging companies, entrepreneur. In the case of going to universities, we have already graduates going to Oxford, Yale, UCLA, or Michigan, and whatnot. Actually, in that list, also University of Tsukuba, because many of our students actually like it here and they decide to keep their graduate studies with us. Now, talking about student life, which is a very attractive for students, we can tell you that sport is a very mild, a very important highlight of our university. In terms of Olympic medal, we have 56, which is quite a lot. Paralympic medals as well, many. We have also Nobel Prizes, but sports, if you're interested in sport, this is a very good place for you to begin. If you are not an athlete, but you're still interested in to develop some club or societal activities, we have over 250 societies and clubs for you to further your interest in most likely any discipline. Having so many clubs and societies allows you to learn about everything. For example, hand signaling, or if you want to become a magician or a comedian, we have many of those opportunities. These are some of the pictures of the club activities if you want to become an acrobat or a comedian. We also have some festivities that we cover. This is a picture, for example, of the International Festival, a picture of the one of the most ancient shrines in Japan. This is also pictures of that festival. So it's a very good environment, not only to learn, but also to enjoy leisure activities. Let's talk about now about the student support. You might be wondering if you're a foreign student coming to Japan, might be quite new to you, but we have in place academic advisors who speak English, personal tutors that will help you during your first year to settle things like your contract for your phone, your bank account, things like that. And if you have any kind of issue, we have also English speaking staff and also counseling if you ever require medical services as well. So we have a complete system in order for you to being able to live your lives in English, even without, or just starting to learn Japanese. This picture is actually of one of the dormitories. When you come here, if you're selected, you're going to have a guaranteed single-sided on-campus accommodation, which is quite affordable, just $140. If you compare this to other accommodations in other universities where you had to travel like 1 hour from your room, from your dormitory to the actual campus, especially those in Tokyo or big cities, in ours, you are going to be very close by, maybe a 5-minute walk to your classroom. So it's quite convenient. If if you prefer a newer, more maybe a better accommodation, a little more expensive, but recently in 2017 we opened up the Global Village, which is a much newer dormitory that we have available for you in case you want to access it. Now, talking about economic terms, this is something that is very interesting for especially parents or students who are planning to fund themselves. Because we're a national university, our tuition system is quite affordable, it's very convenient. For example, even if we compare within Japan, our tuition system compared to private universities could be 4 times or two times cheaper. If we compare Japanese national universities, for example, to the ones in the UK or the US, it could be at least 10 times cheaper or 8 times, which makes your possibility of studying here quite affordable, convenient, at least in economic terms. Now, if you require, anyway, to cover some expenses, we have scholarships as well. Not only the ones that are provided by our university, but also ones provided by the private sector. We also have some fees waivers in some degrees in terms of your needs. And if everything fails, you can also work part-time up to 28 hours per week, which is also a very good possibility, not only for you to grow in terms of your academics, but also your language skills as well. Here, you're looking at the URL, our website. So if you require more information about all the programs I just cover now, please visit this website. But something I can tell you that is common to all the English programs are the admission requirements. Basically, you are required to learn 12 years of formal education. And when you apply, you need to submit some documentation that basically consists of your study plan, that in sometimes is called the personal statement, your financial plan, where you're going to tell us how you're planning to finance your stay here. Things like certificate of completion for your secondary education, academic transcripts to see your gradings, a letter of recommendation that you can get from your counselor or your homeroom teacher, the principal in your school. And also, you need to prove your English proficiency by showing one of these certificates. Of course, with a very small examination fee. But please take a look at that URL code, because you can also download the enrollment booklet in case you require more information, or access the URL I gave you before, okay? So this is the end of the first half of my presentation where I cover the university as a whole and the English programs. Now let me talk to you about the one I particularly work for. It's called the Bachelor's Program in Global Issues. And basically, you might be wondering, what is a global issue? Basically, any issue that do not follow any frontier or border or geopolitical consideration. COVID-19 was a good example of that. So even if you're in a country, the virus doesn't care if there is a frontier nearby, it just goes across. The same is true for things like climate change or hunger or other kind of natural disasters. So basically, we cover any global issue. A good representation of that would be the SDGs. Maybe you have heard about them on the news. It's a good representation of what the global issues are. Of course, you are not restricted to these 17 goals. Any problem that is a global issue might be considered in our program. Now, the purpose of the bachelor's program in global issues is to give you a very broad knowledge about the world, but also during your 4th year here, you're going to develop a very particular interest in one of these topics. We're also going to cater to that expertise in order for you to, as it says in the final point, to achieve optimal solutions. You cannot achieve optimal solutions to global issues without having interdisciplinary broad knowledge about many things. The way that our program is divided is both into environmental sciences and human sciences. On the environmental side, you have things like environmental sciences and earth science, recent security as well, things like disaster prevention. Human health and well-being is also a very important concept, along with social diversity and inclusiveness on the human side. But the whole point of this to tackle global issues is to combine everything. So even if you are interested in health, you need to learn about recent security and environmental science in order to have a broad perspective. The strong points of our programs are twofold. One is that we are very hands-on. So we're going to give you problem-based learning. And for that, you're going to cover many topics. That is the interdisciplinary approach. Now, the way that the program is structured through the 4 years is that at the beginning, you're going to have a very foundational start, learning about things like arts, physical education, language, which are common for all the students in the University of Tsukuba. But along that, you're going to develop later on during the second and third year an interest in some majors, some kind of specializations. Also, during your first year, you're going to visit ICU, which is a very famous private university for international for liberal arts. It's called ICU, International Christian University. And this is a very good opportunity for you to visit Tokyo and also learn and compare the private education that you're going to get by paying the small fees at the national level. Okay. All that leading to your final year, that is going to be the graduation research or an internship. A good thing about our program is that you can choose either to write the thesis or to do an internship, not both, which is quite convenient for our students. We also have in place a tutorial system. That means you're always going to be accompanied by some faculty members. At the beginning, you're going to have a coordinator, but by the end of the final 4 years, you're going to have 3 people with you, your advisor, your mentor, and your coordinator. All of them are going to cater a very holistic approach into, for example, finalizing your thesis or advising you on your internship. What you're looking right now on your screens is a fieldwork trip that the students do to go to a city that is not that far away that suffer a disaster when the river went out of its course because of a flooding, and they learn about how to prevent disasters. But they also get to propose their own policies for the city in order to prevent future disasters. So it's a good thing to learn about previous history, things that could have been done better, but always having in mind a practical solution for the future. Okay. Also, in line with recent developments in data science, we also have data analysis and inclusion of, for example, geographic science information and other techniques that are going to put you in line with the times on data science. Talking about your final year, as I mentioned before, you can either do graduation research or internship. In terms of graduation research, you can choose any topic. So far we have topics on nanomaterials, mental health, gender segregation, and so on and so on. Basically, any topic that you like, that as long as it is a global issue, can be included. Now, if you decide not to write a thesis, but to do an internship, that is also possible. You need to find, or we can help you find an organization where you can work at least 300 hours. It could be in your home country, or it could be in Japan. It could be anywhere. We have people who were accepted to the United Nations, also in their home country in South Korea, some architectural offices here in Tokyo. So any possibility is a good choice as long as you are tackling global issues. The next slide is going to show you what about your future after you graduate from our program. Basically, we can divide the different path into 3 options. One, it could be for you to work, for example, in a global company, either for a company from overseas that is established in Japan or a Japanese company that has decided to have overseas activities. Things like trading, environmental businesses, health equipment, food industry, and so on. Basically, any global issue that is going to be covered by any company nowadays, you can work on. Also, a very important path is to work for international organizations like the United Nations, sub-organizations like WHO, that is the health organization, or UNESCO, UNHCR, that's the Commission for Refugees. But as I mentioned before, a big part of our graduates go into the graduate school for either a master's or a PhD, things like environmental sciences, humanities, medical sciences. We have already students in the University of Sydney, College London, and actually a big chunk of them also decide to keep working here in the University of Tsukuba. So it's a very good opportunity for you to enter to Japan and develop your career here. So in terms of admissions, we have 2 main tracks. One is the general one, that is the one that anyone can apply to, but also we had at your disposal the MEX scholarship track. If you are into the top 3 successful applicants, we're going to offer you a full scholarship. Now, what are the requirements generally for applying to either the general track or the MEX? Is having at least 12 years of education, having some kind of certification. For example, if you're in an inter-baccalaureate or an abitur or a GCE, any kind of this certification will be valid to apply to our school. You also need to certify your English proficiency by having a TOEFL or TOEIC or ELTS certificate, having these kind of scores as a kind of aim. But basically, if you are good at English, is good for us to for you to come here. This is maybe among all the English programs, one of the few, or maybe the only one within our university where Japanese students can apply to. So if you're a Japanese student looking forward to come back and have your education in English, this is also a very good chance. Now, if you are intending to apply to the MEC scholarships, please take a look or take a picture of this QR code because you need to make sure that you fulfill the requirements of the MEC scholarship. Things like having a nationality that has diplomatic relations with Japan is also very important. But in detail, please check this QR code. What that scholarship basically provides is living expenses on top of the tuitions and other fees. And of course, a round trip from your country to Japan, and when you finish, all the way back to your home country. Okay, so please check these QR codes. They will give you much more detailed information than I could ever could. And finally, if you decide to apply, please visit our website. We have a very good website with all the information updated. But I can tell you, in December, we start the application process. So if you are interested in the Bachelor program in Global Issues, please check our website. You can scan our QR code, and we'll be happy to answer any kind of questions you may have. These are pictures of our students visiting some of the research facilities in the city. This is for disaster prevention, flooding. As you can see there, a simulation of an earthquake. But as I mentioned before, our university has over 160 research institutions, both national and private. So this is a very good environment for you to get acquainted and very familiar with the scientific world in Japan and the world. More details can be found on our website as bpgi.tsukuba.ac.jp or access that QR code. And our administrative staff will be more than happy to address any question. Actually, with that slide, I will open up the floor.